How we doing today? Apparently it's raining. You guys hear that?
Is that what that is?
South Florida. You know, it's like a
Um,
box of chocolates.
Mike, Cam Smith, do you have any update on his condition and when he'll be returning?
Well, first of all, I thought that he's got his feet wet in an NFL game, and he showed his teammates a couple things, and he made some good plays. As far as his injury, we're fortunate that I don't think it's long term at all. There's with regard to his treatment and his body. The timeline is a little gray, but it's not long term at all. I would, next couple weeks could be sooner than later.
So is he done for the exhibition season?
I couldn't even say that. The timeline really has to do with how his body responds, but those are still open for sure.
And Rex Barris was another guy who got kind of hit pretty hard. Is he fine?
Yeah, he got some stitches, and really the only thing that's impeding him playing football is the stitches healing. It's like right where the helmet lining is. So instead of having that guy that every time he plays football bleeds all over his face, we have to wait a couple days to let that heal.
Do you expect Jalen Waddle to see much practice time this week, or what sort of activity level do you expect?
Just really with him, he rarely misses time. He's so tough. So we're just trying to protect him against himself and being conservative with it. As far as like I said before, I'm not concerned. He's doing well. But in terms of the timetable of it, he's already moving around and doing exactly what he should be doing. So when it exactly it is, I don't really know. But I'm very happy where he's at.
Coach, I had the chance to visit New Haven and visit Yale University this past week and stop by the Welcome Center. There's a athletic sign that they have on display there, and I was looking forward to seeing your face, but I saw Walter Camp. Can you touch on his legacy?
He's the same guy, right? His legacy is monumental. That just with the advent of football itself and what he did for, being one of the facilitators to create an entire mega sport is, it doesn't get much better than that. So it was inspiring. It's not something that you directly think about immediately when you think about Yale, but then you're on campus and you're reminded of all the history that began with him and his comrades.
So there's no Mike McDaniel player lounge or
no, that was a blip on the radar. There's been a lot of much more important people that have gone through that establishment. So the bust space is minimal.
Mike, after reviewing game tape and film, what did you think of Austin Jackson's performance?
Oh, it was what I'd hoped for in terms of. It's funny. I saw him in the hallway yesterday. Was it after the game? Yesterday, I can't remember. And the first thing I told him was like, dude, I was so fired up for that for an MA, and I meant it. And the reason why is because I try to. We really collectively as a coaching staff try to go along the journey with the player, and this dude has gone all in. And what happens when you go all in and you're putting your best foot forward? You tend to care a lot. So, one of the functions of him playing, which were several, was that you get that feeling of competitive tackle football and what happens when something doesn't go right. And what was awesome is he kept his technique. He ended up responding immediately and had some really good. It was on a run play and had some really good pass protection and then run blocks. That's what you're looking for to make purpose of these exhibition games. You're trying to figure out who gets what job, and then you're trying to have people develop within the preseason so they're their best selves in the regular season. And that was a hurdle that I knew was coming, and he didn't wait much time and then responded as good as one can in the game of football, which was my primary concern since he hadn't played in a minute.
And Liam Eichenberg?
Yeah, he had a cool week because he had some really good things and some things that frustrated him. And what I saw was a deliberate approach, better technique than last year, and he played not scared and learned from the practice. Because you're so what I fear is that things happen to players at any position, and that thing doesn't make you better. And a lot for offensive linemen, like you get beat on a up and under, and then now you're setting short for the rest of the week. So that play made you worse. What I saw was that work week actually make him better, and I thought he performed very well in the game.
When do you expect to gain some sort of clarity on that left guard position? I know there's a lot of guys going in there, a lot of movement. I'm assuming you want to get to a point where the whole line is working and building chemistry. When do you hope to have that resolved?
I feel like it's pretty close to when. A good litmus test is the locker room, and I pay attention a lot to what peers feel, think, maybe say, maybe don't say, their energy, and I feel like when the locker room, I'll feel it from the locker room, I'll feel it from his teammates, whoever that guy is will show his face, and it's not really up to my timeline. I'd like it to be sooner than later, but that's why you have to give guys opportunities to win the job on the field, and it's not necessarily a negative that there's a rotation. Listen, Liam's playing as good a football as he's played. He's had his bumps and's got better from them in this camp, but there's other good players, and so those things have to be settled on the field, I believe, and those opportunities will continue. And then I'll know, when the team knows, and I'll be able to feel it by not just how that person plays, but how his teammates play around him. It's how it is. It's a collective group where you have to communicate, and you have to. Players can make each other better. They can make each other worse, and we're looking for a guy that plays his best but makes other people better as well.
This is a bit of a housekeeping question for Kendall Lamb. Was that we don't need to see him or injury situation why he didn't play in the exhibition game?
It was especially when you have when you're fortunate enough to have a good amount of NFL players on your team, more than a roster can keep. You're assessing, okay, what is this game going to do, and who else needs opportunities. And I've loved the way Kendall has approached his job here. I feel very comfortable with what consistency allows people to forecast what it would look like, and the guys need opportunities to try to win jobs, and so you try to spread those out over 3 games, and there's a multitude of reasons, but it's all in the interest of creating fair, balanced competition where football can be the deciding factor.
There were no orange jerseys at the last joint practice session. Would you say that's a message to the team, or are you done with the orange jerseys?
No, it's more joint practices. It's kind of tricky. I don't feel like putting a bullseye on somebody's back for no reason. Like, oh yeah, he got the better of you today. Yeah, just so you guys know, we know too. Like, so it's more of that. But there were players that were deserving of it, but I wasn't trying to make target practice.
Coach,
going back to the left guard kind of competition, you mentioned with Skyler and Mike, how Skyler might probably get the opportunity to play before Mike. Do you expect Isaiah Wynn or somebody else to get the opportunity to play left guard?
Well, first of all, every day I expect the unexpected. My job is to handle problems, but I think that you that'd be a fair assessment. That's one of the reasons you have the games, is so you can get some fair and balanced opportunities, and let's just say that's in vain of keeping it real as opposed to punishment, if you do see that.
Coach, Ezukama and Tyndall both didn't play a whole lot last year, but had big games in the game on a Friday night. What does their production in that game tell you about how they've grown in their second year as pros?
No, I think it's monumental. This is my favorite part of preseason. I enjoy that whole aspect, and I thought I saw that with them, both specifically, and a lot of guys on both sides of the ball. That's where my excitement and from a game that you lose by 16 points is because I'm looking not at maybe there's 1 or 2 players that are off, which very much dictates the result. But what about the other 9 on the field? And there was a lot of guys that were exhibiting just what you're talking about, really across on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, and then special teams. There was some guys that are new to positions that did some really cool stuff too. So that's what I gained from preseason. The second that 2008 happened, I cared a lot less about preseason games. What happened in 2008? Detroit Lions went 4-0. So then you go on 16, and you're like, okay, well, there's correlation. I mean, I don't see the correlate. So, and vice versa, it happens every year. So I think the biggest thing is that guys continue to get better and learn to worry about the right stuff, and those two have.
Like Raheem Mostert didn't practice last practice for that ailment or a Veterans Day off?
No, I mandated that he didn't practice because it's more of a reward to consistency, and he definitely wanted to fight me on it, but he's got some more years of service to pay before he's a head coach, so I got to trump him.
2 injury questions or kind of updates I wanted to ask. With Tanner Connor on the PUP list, I believe he was participating in spring workouts, but now he's been on PUP for going on 4 weeks. What happened with him? Is that something that will lead into the regular season? And the same thing with Keon Cross. I know you said he's going to recover fast, but it's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks since we saw him.
Yeah, it's all relative, my friend. Okay, so recovering fast is recovering faster than other people would. and time is relative. I believe I'm older than you, so a week is technically shorter for me relative to my life. But no, I mean the both guys are doing the best they can in terms of exact timelines. You guys know me; those I try not to put guys' business out on the street, and when they're working through stuff that's a little gray, I think that I don't shortchange them, but I'm realistic as well. Keon, I stand by that, and you never know. I would expect to see Keon before Tanner, but it might be vice versa. And as far as long as that is I need to update my medical degree because I'm a trash doctor right now.
What have you seen out of Brandon Feely so far?
Growth, like learning how to play within the system, using the power that's in his body and applying it within the scheme, being able to maintain your gap while displacing the line of scrimmage. It's been really cool to watch. His teammates have noticed the dude has gotten better and was able to make some plays the other night, which I was really happy for him.
Mike, what was the thinking behind adding today's practice, which wasn't scheduled, I guess, maybe a week and a half ago or whatever?
Well, the thinking was that I could do better thinking. And there was, there's a lot of guys that played in a game. There was a lot of guys that didn't. And 4 days off of football and what we're trying to do makes me a little nervous. So, that was a schedule rethink. And don't worry, I gave the person who made the schedules an earful. And then I listened. So.
Coach, today is National Left-Handed Day, and
Duh.
you have the only left-handed throwing quarterback in the NFL with Tua. What's it like just going on that journey to reach a Super Bowl with the only left-handed throwing quarterback in the NFL right now?
We made a Super Bowl? Fuck. I told you, Mom. You bring up an interesting point because it was foreign to me for the most part, and everything. It's funny. You have to watch it enough, and then it clicks like watching a right-hander. But you do have to go through the mechanics of thinking, of really reversing feet, and thinking, like for instance, for my entire career, a left-handed play fake, so inside zone to your left, turn the back of the quarterback to the defense, so that naturally is the way I've thought about things. Now that's not the case. So little things like that you have to get used to, but then it feels like old hat now at this point, going through the coaching grind.
Last question.
When you start putting your 53-man roster together, how much thought goes into the special teams and those four units that you have, and whether this guy makes it on because he's a head buster or a wedge buster on the special teams?
It plays a huge factor, and I think that's a cool point because I don't think people totally recognize, fans or players included, until you're in the NFL business and you understand that plays are plays. And in special teams, there's a lot of space for yardage to be gained and an advantage for one side of the ball or the other. A lot of points to score, win or lose games in that avenue. So if you are not a starting player, you're making yourself very vulnerable if you aren't adept at special teams. Because you only have a certain amount of players on the game day roster, and somebody's got to cover that kick, somebody's got to make that tackle, somebody's got to, and so it's extremely valuable, extremely important in the process, and Chris and I factor that in severely because it does matter on the days that wins or losses define you. All right, I'm gonna take my water.